Hey everybody, welcome to Optimism Fractal. We're here in our 13th meeting, and I am so thrilled that you're with us. I'm here with Nuno and Rosemary and Tadas and Abraham and Saul and Hodlon, a bunch of heroes really, and we've been having some great conversations about kombucha and all sorts of cool stuff. We have an exciting event, so I'm going to jump right into it, share a little presentation about what is Optimism Fractal, and then we're going to get into the respect game, and also talk a little about the planning session for later too. If anyone wants to say hello or anything real quick, then feel free. I will jump into the presentation now. Okay, so Optimism Fractal, you can learn more at optimismfractal.com. It is a community dedicated to fostering collaboration and rewarding public goods creators and optimism, and we're creating an abundant future and amazing experiences for all with some really cool people and really cool technology and tools and games. It's a great place to meet optimists and collaborate and network with really talented people and innovators and builders. And we play the respect game every week, which is a profoundly helpful consensus game, which we'll explain a little bit about before. A bunch of people here are pros now, and we encourage everyone to join. It's a way that you can earn respect from community members and share what you're doing and promote your work. We share these videos every week for Optimism Fractal. They're on our YouTube channel on optimismfractal.com/media, and it's a great way to promote your work, meet great people, grow optimism together. We're working with the Optimism Collective and build abundance with the OP Fractal Stack, which are some tools that we use to play the respect game on chain. You can learn more at optimismfractal.com and check out our meetings every week, Mondays at 17 UTC. They last an hour, although we're also doing another planning session, which I'll mention, which is optional for people who want to join. But yeah, everybody's welcome to join, and encourage you to invite friends because we're doing some really cool stuff here and would love to meet more people and love to connect and can offer a lot of value and help people out a lot. Like I said, we publish our videos, so you can check out optimismfractal.com/media. We just published the 10th meeting of Optimism Fractal called Regen Builders or Consensus Gaming. It's asking how do we award innovators building a protopian future, and we play the respect game with open source tools to evaluate impact, build relationships, and foster collaborations and optimism. With each of these, you can click on them and you can watch the full video and see everybody's presentations and the discussions and so forth. And you can also see timestamps and show notes for each of them too. So I encourage you to do so. And then you can also find it on YouTube as well on the Optimistics YouTube channel. So yeah, encourage you all to watch and share with friends. We're planning to share these a lot more because these videos are super cool and super helpful. And then Rosary's been doing a great job of putting together the show notes as well with some messages on Discord as well as timestamps, something like that, so you can look into it and learn a lot more. And then for anybody who's not familiar with Optimism, check out optimism.io. It is a collective using really great technology to scale Ethereum, and they're all about funding public goods and rewarding people who are building a sustainable future for Ethereum and the future internet. So check out optimism.io, and also optimistics.io is the team that launched Optimism Fractal. You can learn more about us. Well, Optimistics are the team, and optimistics.io is the website where you can learn more. We're building tools and we have a blog where you can learn much more. We're also creating the videos and everything like that. So check out optimistics.io/blog and optimistics.io/tools to learn about these tools that we're using and so forth. And feel free to reach out, join our Telegram or join our Discord rather. That's linked in optimismfractal.com. And also starting last week, we started doing Optimism Fractal planning sessions. So we have an hour-long meeting for the playing the respect game basically. And then after that, due to the community being interested to discuss the future of Optimism Fractal more, we started up an Optimism Fractal planning session last week. This event lasts for a half hour, so you're welcome to join for any part of the event for just the first part or second part. But this is for anybody who's interested in figure out the future structure of Optimism Fractal. I encourage you to join and stick around to help coordinate our future and direct where the community goes. I also want to give a shout out and thank you to Hodlon. Hodlon put together this retrospective with a lot of great feedback and lots of great ideas for the future of Optimism Fractal. This was kind of the end of season one. We never fully came to consensus about it, but basically we had a 12-week bootstrap phase that just ended this week or last week, depending on how you count it. So you can check out Hodlon's article here. He shared in the Discord for Optimism Fractal, which you can find by going to optimismfractal.com/contact. And then with that too, I also worked a lot with Tadas and Vlad this week on updating the details page for Optimism Fractal with a new section for a council process. Where people who earn respect can form a council to help make community decisions and help form community opinions. So we can discuss that more in the planning session for anybody who's interested. And we also have a draft of a kind of cool picture for a Sages Council here too. But that can all come later. First, what we're going to do is we're going to play the respect game like we do each week. So the way it works is, for anybody who's not familiar, we're each going to take turns to share what we did to help optimism over the past week. We have 6 people here or 7 people here, so we're going to go into 2 different breakout rooms. And then in each breakout room, each person's going to take up to 4 minutes to share what they did to help. And then we're going to work to reach consensus and put it on chain, and people get more respect if they get higher ranks and help each other more and help optimism more. So you can learn a lot more about it. That's like a really quick high-level overview because I think everybody here knows it pretty well, but you can learn a lot more about how it works and also the benefits of this game, the respect game, at optimistics.io/respect game. And that is pretty much it right now. I see okay, Zal said he's at work, so you might need to share through chat. Sounds good. I think we're ready to go into breakout rooms. So, yep, I think we'll go. But hope everybody enjoyed the presentation. Thanks again so much for being here, and thanks for watching us, and hope that everybody has an awesome time in the breakout room. Hey, hey, hey. Would anyone like to kick us off and either what's up?
Ready when you are. I took some notes to make this easier.
Sounds great. Yeah, I'm ready too. So if anyone wants to kick us off and go first and share what they've been up to, then feel free to go ahead.
As usual, I don't have anything specific to optimism, although I think what I did relates somehow because it has to do with governance and voting. So maybe it has something to do. But if someone has more specifics, I think you should go before me.
Sounds good. Perhaps Tadas would like to go first, or Abraham?
Okay, I can go first. Yeah, so this week I spent regarding work on optimism, I spent a lot of time collaborating with our team, Optimistics team, to create a new what we call intent document, which defines how the intent and consensus process of Optimism Fractal. So we already had it. We made some updates. One chief update is yeah. So previously, the consensus process was top 6 most respected members from last 12 weeks would pass proposals using 4 out of 6 voted. Now it's top 6 most respected members of all time out of those who registered in the poll to participate in governance. So motivation for this is to make sure that people who people who are in the council which makes decision, that they are active and responsive and are able to pass proposals. And also we made the change to not take from last 12 weeks, but from all time. In the short term, there will be no difference basically between those 2 cases, but this will be a lot simpler for us to implement it in this mechanism in the short term if it's of all time. Yeah, and it's all. I think it's likely to be a temporary consensus process. It's meant to help us to decide like how to change it later, how to improve it. And yeah, speaking of improvements, while working on this with Dan and other team members, we came up with a lot of other consensus process, a lot of other ideas for consensus processes. We mentioned a couple of them in previous meetings. One is OREC, other is ORPOL polls that Dan presented. And this week I developed an improved version of ORPOLs. Not sure if you will call it ORPOLs or I think it could be called Optimistic Proposal System as well. That's how I called it initially, and yeah, it's similar, very similar to ORPOLs, but it takes some stuff from my previous idea of OREC, but it's a lot simpler than that OREC idea. So yeah, I will share a link to these ideas in the chat. Yes, and I think that's all from me. No, do you want to go next now?
Okay, I can go if you're finished. Dan, should I?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, so this week I did 3 different things related to governance and blockchain. So for starters, I went to Gnosis Meetup. I don't know if you are familiar with Gnosis, but it's a blockchain dedicated to governance. So there was a meetup in Lisbon where I collected my first poap for the first time. It was very interesting experience to collect the poap because we complained so much about user experience in Web3, but it was as simple as touching my smartphone to an object, and I immediately minted it to my wallet. So it was a very interesting experience. And secondly, okay, so this was the meetup of Gnosis, networking basically. And then secondly, I wrote 2 documents this week. One document is a voting game for the Chile Banks Web3 community in Lisbon to be done on Telegram. So yeah, I know that Telegram does not have any protection against Sybils, etc. But because the community is small, I think it's good enough to make a small voting game without many consequences or treasury management stuff. So in this voting game, I divided polls into 3 sets of questions. The first set of questions is to know the community better. Who are you? What do you do as a business? Where do you come from? The second question, the set of questions I put people to polls to answer was about so if you had a governance system, how would you go about it? Would you like to have like voting every week, voting every month, or who would be allowed to vote? Would it be an NFT owner, and what about the reputation mechanism? How would you build reputation in this community? And the third set of questions is about the mission of the community, of the DAO. So, okay, let's say we have a voting system in place. We have a treasury already. Everything is running properly. What are we going to do next? Do you want to make create events? Do you want to create tooling, infrastructure? So all of these set of questions are going to be used in the next months up till August. And at the end of these questions, I hope to have a picture of the Web3 community so that I can offer them a voting system tailored specifically to their needs. And okay, so this was the second thing. And the third thing, which is more about politics, I wrote a frequently asked questions document for a political part, for a civics movement that I'm part of, where we defend the citizen assemblies. We defend that citizen assemblies should occur all throughout the country. So I wrote a FAQ explaining what is a citizen assembly, why is it useful, why is it important, etc. So this is what I did for governance, and if it relates to any of your work, I'm happy to.
Awesome. That's really cool. Thank you so much, Nuno. Would you like to? I see Abraham's unmuted. I don't know if Abraham wants to go next, or if there's anything else you wanted to add there, Nuno?
I'm happy to hear all of you. I'm curious.
Okay. Sounds
By
good.
the way, I think I think we are interested in all governance systems here to experiment. So it's not a direct contribution to optimism, but I think it can be seen as contribution to Optimism Fractal. And also Chile banks, if you will use any kind of fractal system there, it's also very related.
Yeah, I agree,
Yeah,
100%.
I can go next if you want. Yeah, so I did a similar vein with you guys, where I was applying for the next billion fellowship with the Ethereum Foundation. So I prepared my application there and got all the materials together and stuff. But one of the things that came out of that was really nice is it kind of started to formalize a project that I've been trying to trying to get some parameters around for a while. I do a lot of work with a group in Pakistan where this friend of mine is actually, he's working in Lahore, Pakistan, and he goes out and he helps with these brick areas. So there are brick yards. An owner, an investor will buy up a big piece of land that has clay in it, and then they'll hire people for about $1 a day to make bricks by hand. And so I've been kind of helping basically to try to break the cycle of poverty there, where these people are far away from the towns and the schools, so the school buses don't come and pick up the kids, so their kids end up being also brick makers. And there's two main problems. Obviously they don't get education, so they can never get out of this system. Their kids end up being brick makers, and their kids end up being brick makers, and they are under this oppressive regime where the brick owner, like, they give them a loan to pay for the medical bills for their kids at a high interest rate, and the kids, they just have more kids and they get in more debt and they can't ever get out of debt. So there's a problem of education. There's also a problem of just organization, where these people, they don't have a easy way to connect amongst themselves. I think they don't self-organize terribly easily. Like, they probably could unionize and like walk off. Who knows if the brick owner would acquiesce? They probably would. But I think they don't have a mechanism for that. And so my goal is to provide, so the beauty of, like, I think of DAOs and of cryptocurrency is the ability to kind of self-organize and also to share assets and governance. So I'm trying to figure out a mechanism by which we can use, like, NFC chips, because none of these people have phones. But I think if we gave them NFC chips and gave them an account and then had like a person that would help them, like an administrator, then maybe they could actually sort of self-organize and start to, create proposals for funding similar to what happens in a DAO, and they could receive funds. And then, the mechanism would be there for on-chain verification of things like expenses. Like, if they came up with a proposal, they would have to have a sheet of, whatever they're going to spend money on. And when they do that, they have to upload the expense receipt. And then that's, attested to on chain that's valid. And then I think the beauty of that is that a lot of organizations now, when you give significant money, you don't really know where it's going. Like, you think it's going to one thing and it may actually go to administrative costs or whatever. It's not really clear. So the goal of this is to really establish a system where donors are comfortable, and it can also help to create a system for bringing people out of poverty. So I am trying to figure out what the parameters are of that and write some user stories and stuff like that. So I kind of spec'd that out at a very high level, and hopefully could use Optimism as a mechanism for on-chain verification and all that.
Super cool. Fascinating. Thank you very much. Is there anything else you wanted to add, or should I go ahead now?
Well, one last thing. I think the mechanism of verification is the first step, where I'm gonna try to make it a public good, where, like, I would release the code where they can do those verifications of expenses first, and then other people can use it in their projects.
Okay. Excellent. Oh yeah, I'm really excited to learn more about both what you're working on and Nuno is working on. It seems like well, we're all working towards similar goals, and yeah, thanks so much for working on it and then sharing with us too. Looking forward to collaborating or seeing how I can help with these as well. Okay, cool. So I suppose I'll go ahead then and share what I've been up to over the past week to help optimism. So da, 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 da. Okay, so I'm Dan, as you know, and Yeah, so one of the things I worked on a lot this week, as Tadas said, working on the intent. That's now at optimismfractal.com/details. Tadas like took the lead on most of this, but I like left a lot of comments basically and just like helped him refine it and then asked a bunch of questions and stuff like that. And there's some comments you can see here, so I won't go into it too much, but we worked on, even though it seems like, I don't know, fairly simple to just make a consensus process in a council, there's all these like little things we had to just think about. So we just did like a lot of thinking, and we had several rounds of different documents that we also had a discussion for about an hour over the weekend to do it. So I hope none of this is private that I'm sharing, but that's basically what we discussed. I also gave feedback on Tada's idea for the optimistic respect proposal system, or the evolution of orpals and stuff like that. And so you can see it there. And I gave a lot of feedback there. And then I started also working on branding for these games. And I also left some comments with Tadasa. This is like some pretty early work there. But I was thinking about making a game called Copinions to basically like work on like how people can make decisions together. Copinions like community opinions or collaborative opinions, something like that. And then kind of like four different mini games with like council, chorus, and captains and concord. These are kind of like the draft ideas. Council is like what we're doing. Chorus is like the idea where people can make decisions together by voting, and then captains is like electing a captain. I can go into more details about it, but basically I started doing that. I had a very long conversation with ChatGPT, figuring out like the etymology of all these words and how it could work out well and stuff like that, and trying to like market and figure out how to brand these in a way, as well as a Cagendas game too, which is like a community agenda game since we started doing the planning session, a way that we could organize how people can like how we organize what we discussed during meetings. So that's still coming together, and I started to just like make some early draft work for art and stuff like that. And we'll come together more with that next week. I also worked a lot with Rosemary on the marketing and promotion. I brought a lot of feedback for the images and the text and stuff like that. And we had lots of discussions about this one as well as some other of the videos we were publishing and our promotional messages like on the governance forum and on Twitter and stuff like that. And then I also put together this kind of template, or I worked with Rosemary a lot on like a template for how we can get more organized with our promotions. So I wrote like some next steps. I wrote like some documentation for a database that has all of our messages that we ever used to promote Optimism Fractal, as well as like the audience and the brand and the channel and so forth. So we can promote Optimism Fractal, Optimistics, Eden Fractal, all the different brands that we have over here, and probably like promote them more effectively, as well as scale up to more people and share. And then I also had some projects related for like projects I've been using to manage these ideas, like creating a content calendar and stuff like that, and creating a plan to promote all the recent videos that we made over the past few months as well. So there's a lot there that we've been discussing, and I've also been working. I sent a message to the founder of Lumo because there's an issue with the events page. I also, this probably should have been earlier, but I was testing out Snapshot as a way to vote, and doing a lot of research into Snapshot and similar voting tools as well. And then I also, last week, I started writing an article about the future Optimism Fractal. I shared it with Das and the Optimistics team, but I haven't shared it much yet. So this wasn't really this week, but I think I forgot to present it last week. And I'm just kind of like working on that, as well as I'm also thinking about ideas about an Optimistics fellowship and like consulting services that we could offer to help people grow these fractals and stuff like that. But those are still kind of early, so maybe I'll share that next week or when I have more time to work on it. And then I also did look into the Ethereum fellowship too. I was looking into that and thinking about what I heard like the day before, but it's what inspired me to think about doing like an optimistics kind of fellowship or some sort too. And then one other thing that I did that I'm really excited about, and I think it's pretty big, is RegenLearnings, which is created by Kevin Owocki, who's the founder of Gitcoin. And he's also doing all sorts of other different great stuff. He started RegenLearnings as a way to like basically gather research about how to improve public goods funding and impact evaluation and all sorts of stuff like that. There's a little blog post here where you can learn more. He's gathering researchers and people to do great stuff together related to that. And so I joined the first week monthly call this week, and then I spoke there and I got to present in front of Kevin Owocki and about 70 other people who are interested in the public goods funding and impact evaluation space. And I gave a 5-minute presentation about Optimism Fractal and Optimistics and Eden Fractal and the work that we're doing. And then I also watched Green Pill and Bitbeckers was on there too. So that was pretty cool. I watched both those episodes over the past couple of weeks. Bitbeckers was on the Green Pill. I recommend checking out the Green Pill to learn more about what they're doing. But yeah, and I'm working on following up with Kevin Owocki because he's interested in structuring this meeting and I have some suggestions of how they could use the respect game. Lastly, I promoted Optimism Fractal at the weekly Eden Fractal meeting too, and I also responded to Zal in the chat too. Zal had asked some questions about implementing the respect game into his work. So yep, that's pretty much it.
Cool. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Thanks for listening. Now I suppose either me or Tadas can set up the Fractalgram group. Um, and then if anybody has any questions or comments for anybody while we do that. Also, Tadas, do you want to set the Fractalgram or should I? And I think Nuno learned how to do it too. If I remember, Rosemary said that Nuno had learned how to do Fractalgram. So if you want to go ahead and try leading it, then that's an option too.
Not yet, but I thought it was very simple. It's not as difficult as I was thinking it would be. I mean, if I had access to the platform and etc., I think I could do it easily.
Okay, sounds good. Tadas, you're muted by the way as you're speaking.
How much time we have?
We have 28 minutes until the top of the hour, although the other room only has 3 people, so I imagine they'll probably be ready to go back sooner if we want to go back sooner than that.
Okay. Just thinking that we could let Nuno practice now.
Not okay. Let next week maybe next week.
Okay.
I'll be ready for next week. I'll take some notes here.
Get ready.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Nuno might be on a phone in a forest too, so it might not be the ideal Fractalgram environment either.
Yeah, that's why I started doubting it, but not looking in the most like professional environment.
Well, it is a fractal environment, so maybe he was figuring that. And people use Instagram on their phone too, so maybe that's what he was thinking. He wants to get to the perfect place for Fractalgram. Yeah, but maybe next week if you want to do it, you mentioned having a platform. I mean, it is pretty simple. You don't need anything other than just, I think, what Rosemary showed you. I imagine I didn't see it, but she told me she showed you how to, like the blog post from Tadas, and there's like the 8 steps basically.
We went through the whole process, and it looked really simple. Obviously, I didn't take notes. I don't know if that was recorded or not. I think it was. If it was, I'll check it. Otherwise, then I'll bother you in the meantime, so you can. I would be very happy to actually do that next week because I want to learn.
Well, actually, all you need is one of us, of existing members who know how to do it, and we can walk you through the process in this breakout room right here. Tell you what to do.
Okay.
Yeah, and Rosemary did record that too. She told me that she was thinking about editing it and cutting it, so that just there's a video clip too. So if you want, you can review that, and then next week, if we're in the same breakout room together, or I'm sure be in the same breakout room as one of the Optimistics, so you can do it, and then we can be there in case you have any questions while you're doing it.
Okay, sounds awesome. Sounds perfect. I'm very happy to.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you. I remember Abraham, you said you're interested in doing that at some point too, so no rush. But if you want to learn Fractalgram, then we can teach you soon too.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, sounds great. And then me and Tadas will chill and relax. I think everybody joined the Fractalgram Telegram group except for Abraham.
Yeah, the link is in the Zoom chat to the Telegram group.
All right, thanks. Sorry about that. I'm multitasking here.
Okay, no problem.
Here we go. Come on. Okay.
Okay, I see everyone joining.
So Abraham, if I'm correct, I took notes here. If I say that basically you were working on accountability methods for donations, charity donations with the blockchain, is this correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
It's a good summary.
Yeah.
By the way, did you have you heard back from the Ethereum Next Billion Fellowship, or you just applied, or?
I mean, they received my application, but I haven't heard anything other than that. I think the response is required by April, is what they were talking about.
Okay, cool. Well, I wish you luck there and hope it works out well.
Thank you. Did you apply too?
No, I didn't. I heard about it like the day before it was due, and then I wound up listening to some videos about it because I was like, this is interesting. Maybe I should try to apply last minute, but then I was like, I don't have enough time, but it sounds interesting. But they do it again, so I'm gonna keep my eye on it for the future.
I think it's a yearly thing.
Okay, it looked like a 6-month thing to me from what I saw, but I might be wrong about that.
then yeah, maybe they've changed the cadence too, because it looked like in some of the grants pages that yeah. Anyway,
Okay, cool.
okay, address in there.
And Abraham, just one more question, because
Yeah.
it wasn't clear to me. How far are you in the conceptualizing stage? Are you still conceptualizing how to do it, or were you writing documentation already about your project?
Probably more in the documentation stage. So I'm like writing user stories. I'm trying to arrive at specific, like, oh, what are we going to do as a mobile app? What are we going to do as a web app? What are we going to, what do the smart contracts need to handle, and those kinds of questions.
So past ideation, let's say.
Yeah,
Past
yeah.
ideation.
Past like floating ideas around, but also just trying to find the edges of the user stories. Like, okay, well, if we need verification, who does what and what's the workflow and those things. I'll probably create workflow diagrams and stuff at some point. I'm good at like flow charts, or at least I think I'm good at flow charts.
If you think you're good enough, I guess.
I'll take it.
All right. I'm a little bit divided, but let's go.
But by the way, Abraham, I wrote a response to your message. You have to send that as a response to the first message, or else it won't work.
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
The reason I'm a little bit divided is because I know Dan contributed the most to Optimism Fractal directly, but I see the work of Abraham somehow connected. Specifically, if we consider that the optimism, the respect game and everything we are doing here is about governance, I think accountability is a very important aspect of governance. So yeah, but we are divided, so I guess eventually some of us will need to change the vote.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm also quite divided too, and I want to vote for everybody at level 6, but
and 6 is the highest. It's
yeah,
okay.
level 6 is the top rank.
I think I messed that up last time. I was like, oh, well, this is the lowest one first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something that might be confusing. We've thought about making it like first place, second place, which might be a good idea at some point, but it is what it is right now. Okay, so it looks like we don't have consensus yet. From what I see, Abraham has 1 vote from Nuno. I have 2 votes from Abraham and Tadas, and Tadas has 1 vote from me. Does anybody want to elaborate more or advocate for whoever they chose for?
I see Nuno switched vote to you then.
Okay.
So congrats on level 6.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. Appreciate it all. Okay, and now it's split 50% for Abraham and 50% for Tadas. I'd also be happy to switch to Abraham too, or Tadas. I mean, Tadas, like, I think what Tadas did was heroic with like getting together the intent and all these different things that he's been working on. So I really, really appreciate it. But also, I was listening to Abraham both now, and then I was listening to him in some of his recordings in the past ones, and I don't think he's gotten the respect he deserves in general. I think like I really want to give Abraham like level 6 and stuff like that, because I really appreciate what he's doing and stuff like that. So and I'm really excited to learn more about what you're doing. So I'm happy to go either way. Does anybody want to advocate either way, or should I or Abraham, if you want to switch, then you can, or Tadashi, you want to switch, you can too, I think.
Maybe Tadas can elaborate a little bit about the intent thing.
Yeah, so it's basically a document which describes how Optimism Fractal should work. The purpose of this is that because not all of it is automated yet, we want to make sure that people understand how it's supposed to work, so that we are clear, there are no misunderstandings. And yeah, regarding that, I already talked a bit about how a new consensus mechanism will work. Do you want me to elaborate on that, or?
No, I think it was clear from your answer what it meant. that we worked on. I mean, it's important to the fractal optimism directly.
Yes.
Although I remember once I spoke with an authority from Venezuelan authority, and they had the whole system of online voting for politics, for governmental politics already in place. So the most direct use of online voting you can imagine in politics, but people were not people were voting on stuff. They were taking money from the government, but they were not making whatever they were supposed to do. So for me, accountability is since I learned from that, I understood that accountability is so important. But yeah, I guess I know what to do. I don't know if I was clear in what I said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that made sense. It looks like somebody switched to DOS. It looks like Nuno switched to DOS. Okay. Okay.
By the way, Abraham, did you consider respect game as one of the means to get more accountability? Because we're kind of like evaluating what each other did, each of us did, and I'm just thinking that kind of helps accountability as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that there's definitely some possibilities there to it would be interesting to have, you know, a mixed group of people between the, you know, the people that are relatively uneducated and people that are also from the funding organizations, and they all kind of get together and try to figure out what the, you know, what the project should be and come to consensus on what was done. I think it would be amazing. And it would be a nice real world scenario where you could prove that it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Well, let us know if there's anything
Oh,
we can do to help with that. And we can go a level 4 now, I
50-50.
guess. Yeah.
It's rough.
Oh, 50-50. That's what the I think it's mostly just because you two voted for each other so far, and me and Tadas haven't voted, if I'm correct.
Okay.
Okay. And it looks like Abraham has level 4 then. Got 3 out of 4. Um I honestly today I really did want to give every level 6. So I really appreciate what Nuno's doing. I really appreciate what Abraham's doing. I really appreciate what Tadas is doing. So sometimes it's really difficult. And um yeah, I mean we all get respect, so that's very good. But I guess I just want to just reiterate that I really appreciate what y'all are doing. And sometimes it's tough to pick.
You know, Dan, this is something I've been thinking about by playing these games with you. There are some nuances to playing this game. Having such a short time to explain what I already told you this the first day, I guess. And I hope there you find ways to not to make this game more complex, because that's not what we want, but to improve. I don't know if this works over time better. I don't know. I understand what you said. You wanted to give everybody 6, and probably everybody deserves the 6. That's my point.
Yeah, well, I mean, for one thing, we made a decision to limit the talking time to 4 minutes, which I think some of us might have went a bit over because I got scared of the timer and haven't put that up recently. So we used to do
You're
like 5 minutes,
still
which gave
scared
a bit
of
more
the
time.
time.
Yeah, I still haven't tested it yet, so I really should test it to make sure it won't go over my face again like last time. But yeah, if anyone else wants to do the timer to make sure we're on time, or I'll test that as soon as I can, then we can. But yeah, I think I mean, it's a great game. Like it's not perfect every week because you want to get more respect. But I guess I just want to say that because even if like you could look at it in two ways, I guess you could say like, oh, for example, Nuno got last place in this round, and people might be like upset about that, like, oh, I got last place. But um, there's a lot more to it though, because the game is just a way to show respect, and like I just want to make it clear that one, we all get respect, and especially because there's only 4 people, we all get more respect. It's not like we get level 1, which is still good, but level 3 or level 4 is still a lot more respect than level 1 or 2. But then also just I really appreciate everybody's work here, and then that's like a real great respect. That's like that kind of more ephemeral respect that we can and for sure in future meetings I'll advocate for you to get level 6 too.
I'm trying to push a transaction. It says transaction failed. Are you getting the same?
Yep, actually.
But yeah, that's what I was thinking then. Maybe over time, this is a game that it gets more accurate over time.
Ah, I see what the issue is.
The idea is, I think we might have discussed this before, but the idea is like it's a measurement system, and it's a measurement system that works with like what's that? Sample sizes. So each week the measurement might not be super precise because due to the rooms you could have 6 people in one room that don't contribute that much, and then 6 people who contribute like a huge amount in another room. But it winds up balancing over time. And I think everybody, I think Hodlon and Rosemarines are all doing great stuff too. But then over time, as the community gets bigger and as more people join, and as you do week over week over week, then it tends to be like it tends to get a lot more accurate over time as you get a larger sample size. And just from being
Yeah, I
here in the
guess.
beginning, well, I think we're all getting a lot of respect, and I think that the respect is very like valuable and helpful right now at this point too. So.
Yeah, I guess no system is perfect, and if we're looking to find the perfect system, it never come, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most perfect system I found. I really, really like it, and it's for us together, and we can for sure improve it and try different things out. But I don't know, maybe I was just being overly emotional because I just really appreciate what Nuno and Abraham are doing, and then at the same time, I see everything that Tadas is doing, so it was difficult not to vote for Tadas because I was like working really closely with him, and I was like, wow, that's so amazing. But just from what I heard from Abraham and Nuno, and then hearing you in the previous one, I guess maybe it's just me being just like I said, overly emotional. I just wanted to give everybody more respect, but I'm happy to give you respect now, and then happy to give you much more respect in the future too, and really excited to collaborate.
Yeah, so I generated a new consensus message. The first one had an issue. So I had to input Abraham's address manually. Abraham, you replied to my address message. You have to reply to the first message, which is please enter your Optimism account as a reply.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But it's okay now. I inputted your address manually, so.
Okay.
It should be more intuitive. I think we need to improve this. People should not make this mistake.
I was able to push it, but I don't see the same. Oh wait, is this one that you just sent, the 9F76? Is that the newest one? Is that what it should be now?
Yes.
Okay, I submitted something else, so I'll just try submitting again.
But I think I doubt you should have gotten transaction failed. I think maybe you did not notice.
It said it got approved, but I'll just do it again in any case. But now I still don't see. I just copied what you just put there. Oh, now I see 2D32, which is the previous picture you took, not the most recent one.
To maybe
Aha! Successful.
Okay. Now it says failed.
Now I'm successful. It worked.
Okay.
Whatever reason, the browser inside of Telegram will not take it. For me, it will not take the URL from the here link. But when I go into my Coinbase wallet and I go to that link, it works. Let's see if I can actually submit.
Okay. Yeah, I was just able to submit and got the 9F one. I might have ended up submitting like 2 or 3 times, but
I It looks like I executed.
Okay.
Hopefully it's the right one.
Sounds good. I know the other room is ready to go back to the community room. Should we head back now, or anything else we should discuss, or any other issues or anything like that first? Okay, I think we're ready to go. Okay, cool. Well, thanks so much for the great reset game and for all the awesome work, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you too. So, Mr. Tadas, I think there's a second game now coming, or a second part of the meeting, right? Or am I confusing with the Eden Fractal?
Yes, then that's planning session, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right. We have the planning session. Right now, it's not a game yet, but we're thinking about. I mentioned during my breakout room that I think making a game, maybe calling it Cagendas or something like that, as a way we can play a game to choose what we discuss. But for now, we just have a planning session that's scheduled for a half hour, starting at the top of the hour, and we can start it now basically too, and plan and discuss the future of Optimism Fractal.
Okay.
Cool. Appreciate the enthusiasm, Nuno. And welcome back, Rosemary, Hodlon, and Saul. Hope you had a great time in your breakout room. Very cool. It looks
It's
like
a,
Nuno's got something on his mind. You want to say something here?
no, it's always a pleasure to try new ways to to reach consensus about stuff. It's always fun for me personally. For other people, could be boring, I guess.
Yeah, although this planning session we are right now doing it's more free form right now, right? We're not don't have a game for it yet, but it's something like that we.
No, and it's about the Optimism Fractal's agenda, right? So
Yes. So, well, first off, I appreciate your enthusiasm once again, Nuno, and yeah, I'm the same way, and we'll try to make it as exciting as we can, fun and enjoyable, and I'm really looking forward to it and figure out the next steps for Optimism Fractal. Really appreciate everybody being excited for the future, and there's been a lot of great feedback so far, and over time we can make it more of a game and make it more structured in different ways. But right now we'll have a more kind of relaxed conversation, or I don't know if relaxed is the right word because we always want to be relaxed, but we can have kind of more of a free-form conversation, as Tadas said. And I put a message in the Discord that will be introducing the council that the Optimistics team agreed to after the bootstrap phase. I know that's something we discussed. We'd also discuss seasons and all sorts of different stuff. So we can get into that whenever we're ready. I suppose first, technically we're still in the first event or first part of the event for the first hour, which is like the respect game and normally scheduled Optimism Fractal stuff. And we have another 5 minutes until the planning session would start, but we could start now. But I mean, first off, just to wrap up the regular event, is everybody able to submit consensus? I know in our room we were, Rosemary, Hodlon, Zal, you all good to submit consensus? And does anybody have any other thoughts before we get into the planning session? Got a thumb up from Rosemary. Sounds good. I'll take that as the whole room did well and got consensus and everybody had a good time. So yeah, I could share a little bit of an overview if you'd like, a little presentation. I already shared it in the breakout room to Tadas a bit, but we could go a little more in detail about what we have planned and decided as Optimistics team following up the bootstrap phase and the way that the Optimism Fractal Council will work and how we can make community decisions and how we can form community opinions and stuff like that. And so maybe that would be helpful to do to kind of like give a little presentation or just like share it and explain how it'll work. We updated the optimismfractal.com/details website to reflect the new changes. It kind of just changes the intent a little bit with a new consensus process. And we can also discuss other things in the planning session as well. If anybody has any thing that you'd like to discuss or anything on your mind, then feel free to let us know. Feel free to either just unmute your mic and say it, or you can raise your hand in Zoom, or if you want to put in the chat, you could do that, whichever works. And yeah, like we said, we're working on formulating a system And one of the things I'm working on is like an agenda kind of game where we can form agendas and people can vote with respect points and stuff like that to choose what to discuss. But for right now, we can just kind of play it by ear and see what everybody wants to discuss. And if you want, we can start by introducing the council and the new intent. So, is that you said okay?
Okay.
Okay. Cool. Sounds good. Well, yeah, feel free if anybody has any thoughts with that. But otherwise, maybe I'll get to in your presentation. If Tadas, you want to give an overview because you designed a lot of council, then you could feel free to present it. Or if you want, then I could present it. Do you have a preference?
I think you can present it.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Well, I'll go ahead then and give an overview of how we see the next steps for Optimism Fractal, and feel free if anyone wants to jump in at any point. Well, first I'll just conclude this is the end of the first hour of Optimism Fractal. If anybody needs to go after the hour, we want to make sure that we're respecting everybody's time and like that. So feel free to leave whenever if you do, and we're going to be publishing the video, so you can always catch up on the video. But appreciate everybody who can stick around, who's interested in participating in the future of Optimism Fractal. When we start Optimism Fractal, we decided that like we'd have a bootstrap phase where basically the optimistics were making all decisions for the first 12 weeks. That's myself, Tadas, Rosemary, and Vlad. We did it with like a 3 out of 4 consensus, but we wrote that there's a bootstrap phase that would last for 12 weeks. And after that, we wanted to have a consensus process where the community could make decisions and to form opinions and so forth. And so that's what we worked on a lot this week. So now we'll turn into the Optimism Fractal planning session part of the event. This event is scheduled to last for 30 minutes, or I guess like 32 minutes or so, and then we'll wrap it up. Then, if anybody wants to stick around after, we could always have longer conversations if needed, but basically, that's the event that we're in right now. And the main thing that we have to announce, I suppose, is the Optimism Fractal Sages Council, Optimism Fractal Council. This is so kind of early branding. Stas was asking me earlier why I put the word sages there, but I thought sages was a way to make it more fun, also convey the wisdom and interesting stuff. So here's some here's some art. I see Hodlon's laughing. So yeah, basically that's what we have right now. Optimism Fractal Sages Council, Optimism Fractal Council. What we did is we updated the optimismfractal.com/details page. Also in our breakout room, we shared a whole lot of Notion pages. I like presented them, and maybe if it's helpful, then I can share that to show some of the work and thought that went into this design. But we can save that for later if anybody's interested. And basically, most of this is the same. We made like a couple of slight updates here and there to the wording. But if you compare, I also saved the previous intent in another page here where it says original intent, so you can see what it used to be. And it's pretty similar. But the main changes that we made, and Tadas, feel free to add more if I'm missing something, as I'm sure there's some little things I'm not remembering. But the main place that we changed was the consensus process section. So if you go to optimismfractal.com/details and you go to number 6, consensus process, then basically the way it works and the way a council formed is that every week during the Respect Game meeting, during this Optimism Fractal meeting, a poll is created for participants to register and take part in the consensus process of Optimism Fractal for the next week. And we call this the registration poll, and participants can register throughout the whole week. This is going to be done on Snapshot is our main plan, but we wrote it out in kind of more general way. So if we want to use a different platform, we can, but we're doing research into snapshot.org, which is a platform where people can vote. And we tested that you're able to use OPF, which is the Optimism Fractal Respect token, to vote there. So planning to put up a poll on Snapshot. I think we're planning to do the first one today. Maybe during this meeting or a little bit after. And then the top 6 respect earners, or top 6 community members who have earned the most respect out of those who have registered in the registration poll will constitute a council, or the Sages Council, for the current week. And then basically the new council gets activated at the start of each weekly meeting where we play the respect game. And the respect distribution at the moment is used to determine the council. So going back to the statement about how it's the top 6 most respected members, whoever registers, then the people with the most respect will be in that council. So if there's 7 people who register, then the people with the top 6 respect will be part of the council for that week. And then if people earn more respect the following week, then that top 6 can change, or somebody doesn't register and so forth. The registration there was partially, I think Hodlon or Zal had mentioned that, how people might, sometimes people don't remember to vote or something like that. So this is a way to make it so even if people are busy or something like that, then we can still have consensus. And people who are interested in taking part in consensus can register with like a simple action, basically. And then if fewer than 6 people have registered, then the council can be smaller. If there's only 5 people registered or whatever, then that's okay. But basically, a proposal is said to be passed or approved by Optimism Fractal if at least 2/3 of council members approve for it. And this can be used for all kinds of purposes, like signaling community opinions from Optimism Fractal to say, hey, we think this is good, or we think that, or whatever, to make changes to the rules of Optimism Fractal, like these rules here in the intent document. As I said previously, this was just the Optimistics team that came to consensus about this. But if we want to change these rules, then we can do it with this consensus process. Also, to select software implementation of Optimism Fractal, like to implement these rules here, like smart contract deployment and official front ends and so forth. That can also be decided with this consensus process. One note here too that might be helpful to mention is we thought a lot about potential for the community to have a like access or I suppose to be able to administer the smart contract and like the software and the amount of respect and so forth based upon this kind of council system. And the conclusion that we came to is that that has some technical difficulties to do right now, and there's several different reasons why we decided that like basically the way going forward is that like that we have planned at least is that this consensus process can be used by the community to signal opinion of the community and to select software implementations, and then it'll be up to whoever's administering like the specific software or something like that to do those changes. And it's also up to the community to pick somebody else to administer or something like that. We're still kind of honing in the details, and perhaps Tadas can explain in different words. But just to be clear, like one thing we want to make clear is that these are opinions. So Optimism Fractal in this consensus process doesn't have like control to make somebody do something. We can express opinions to each other, and we can choose who we want to do something and so forth. And so these opinions can basically be used to say, hey, we think that we should add respect here or so forth. And then we can take it from there. In addition, it can also my zooming is messing up. And this consensus process can also be used to blacklist breakout group results, which is explained in section 3. This also had some changes too about basically this is how when people play Fractalgram, they are submitting the submit cons contract function. So, but there is a possibility if like it seems like the council thinks that this A group is doing something like a Sybil attack or something like that, then they could blacklist a group, and then also make changes to the respect distribution too. So, as this is an opinion, respect. If the council decides, oh, this person deserves more respect, even though they didn't reach consensus with 2/3 consensus in their room, that's happened a few times in Optimism Fractal, where we didn't have, there's 2 to 5 people who signal on chain, but not 4 to 5 or whatever it is, then we use this consensus process. So far, we made like 3 decisions like that, I think, with the Optimistics. And so we could do that. And basically, the way to do that would be put up a poll, and then people register throughout the week, or people register throughout the week first, basically. And then you put up a poll, and then people can vote in the poll, and then that poll will be said to be approved by the end of the week. That being said, like we also want to make sure we're respecting personal property and stuff like that. So if we said like, hey, this person must do this or that group must do that, then it's always up to the person or the group to do as they choose. And these are just like opinions that are telling people this is what we think you should do and so forth. And the community, if somebody doesn't want to do something that the community says, their opinion, then they can always change their mind, or the community can ask somebody else to do it or something like that too. So that's kind of like an overview of it. Basically, like the way it'll work is, so I think at this meeting, we'll put up a poll, and that'll be the registration poll where anybody can register to be part of the council. And then when the next meeting starts, then whoever registered will take the top 6 respect earners, and those will form the council. And between now and next week's meeting, anybody can make a proposal. I think what we're going to do, and we should probably come to consensus about this because I know Tadas wanted to keep it more generalized, but we should probably, I think we should use Snapshot as the place to vote here. And I had actually tested this as well. So if you want, I can show a test, but I have the Optimism Fractal.eth account, which I can set it up there at. Right now, I just created at a different account, but you can see like basically I just did some tests here where I was testing out some different things, like how it could potentially be used for. But basically, if you go to snapshot.org, and then I'll create the optimismfractal.eth snapshot group or space, and then you'd go to new proposal in that space, and then you'd write like, for example, should we give respect to the room that didn't reach consensus, or should we, I don't know, change the meeting time, or should we make it 50 minutes rather than 60 minutes, or whatever it is. You would basically put that, should we do this, and then you could write a description. You can also add pictures or whatever if it's helpful, and then you would like connect wallet, preview, and then post it, and then you post it, I suppose, in the Discord. Well, it's been a little bit rushed too, so we tried lots of different ways. So we're still gonna like figure out exactly the best way to do it. But basically, what we have so far is this intent, which we've thought very deeply about, just try to figure out how to structure this in the way that's the best way possible to make sure that the community can make decisions and so forth as we move out of the bootstrap stage. So maybe I'll stop there because I've been speaking for a while and very curious to hear your thoughts. And Tadas, if you want to maybe add anything on there, then feel free, of course.
I'm curious if there are any questions. Maybe let's start.
It's just one question popped to my mind. Does the governance model you guys are proposing at the moment, does it include already rotation of the elected council, or is it always these people with the most respect at the moment?
At the moment, it is just counted by total respect. The council could rotate depending on if people registered or not. If the people with the top 6 respect registered every week, then assuming that they didn't change and there wasn't other people who got in the top 6 respect who earned more respect than them, then they would be the council going forward. But it can rotate based on who registers, and then if that top respect level changes over time, then that would be rotation. We originally designed it and we had the plans to make it something like it's based upon respect you earned in the past 12 weeks or the past 26 weeks, something like that, to make it so, say, if we're doing it if we're meeting Optimism Fractal in a year from now, then somebody earned a lot of respect in the first couple of weeks, but then they left, then they wouldn't still be in the council. So in the future, we aim to make it more based upon recently earned respect, but for technical reasons, that's more difficult to achieve. More difficult to build, and
it makes me wonder what kind of rotation mechanisms can we think of. Maybe it's something I would be thinking on and to propose next meeting, if there is a specific rotation mechanism.
Well, I think the people in the council will rotate naturally, simply by those who get more respect can get into the council. Those who stop earning as much respect, maybe they miss a couple meetings, they lose their council position. And people, that's how respect game can kind of regulate the council, because if people don't like what the council is doing, they can or don't like what some participants of a council are doing, we can rank that council member lower, and that way community opinion influences who is in the council.
So do I understand it that the council is a week-by-week opt-in, basically? So like every Monday, every time we do the game, you have to opt into being into the council for that week. Is that correct? And then if you don't, and then if you miss a week or you choose not to be there, then you're off of the council for that week until you come back and opt back in. Is that right?
Yes. You have to, the registration poll where you have to register to be potentially in the council, it lasts the whole week. So you have a whole week to register, and then if you register, then you're potentially in the council for the next week if you have enough respect. Yeah.
And then so you you have 1 week to register, and then when you register, you're on the council for the following week, and then that following week there's also an open registration for the week after that, correct? So it's like every week within a 7-day window, you have to register to basically signal that you'd like to continue on for another week.
Yes, correct. In
Okay.
practice, I think we will remind people in these meetings, in the planning sessions, and most people, I expect, we will simply do it in this meeting, registration for the next week.
And then if one, another quick question, if one person has, say the most respect or a bunch of respect, and then they are on the council and then they choose to go off, then the next person would be bumped up. And then if that person with a lot of respect came back on, then the person in the sixth place would be bumped off. And so there's that line there where you could be on the council, and then if somebody with more respect above you opts into it, then you will potentially not be on the council until you earn more respect than the person above you.
Yeah, that's correct.
Cool.
Any other thoughts, comments, questions? Nuno?
So then you talked about the decisions are not binding somehow. Most are recommendations. Is I understood it, or did I miss something?
Yeah, so and feel free to toss if you wanted to answer that. I probably didn't explain that so eloquently, and something that I'm meaning to write out. When we did Eden Fractal or, last year, we talked about this a lot. We trying to be clear that I suppose everybody understands like just how it should best work. And I think that the way it should best work is that if we consider that respect is an opinion of the community, and that proposals are expressions of the community as well. It's expressions of community opinions, and the community itself, I don't think, has power to do anything other than express opinions that community members should do, basically, or express recommendations and so forth. So, for example, if I don't know, just like a crazy example, I'm the person who has the optimismfractal.com website. And if there was a proposal passed that was like, Dan, you must change the website to say like um, football is better than baseball or something like that. I don't know, something random like that would never happen. But like just in some example where somebody was like, you must change the website. Like I still have a right to keep the website as I wish, and I could say, okay, that's the community's opinion. I respect that, and I, as an individual and like a member of Optimism Fractal, I want to do what the community intends, basically. But at the same time, like I still have a right to do whatever I want with my own personal property, basically. And so we want to just make it clear, like these are opinions expressed. It's not binding, like somebody must do something because the community consensus process and the community decided to do something with the consensus process. Because I feel like, I brought myself up as an example, but that's better for everybody. Like we want everybody, like foster a culture basically where we respect each other's private property, independence, and so forth. And so that's what I was trying to make clear with that, the opinion statement. And then also on that too, right now the Optimistics, as I said before, and Tadas made something called OREC, which was short for Executive Respect-Based, or no, Optimistic Respect-Based Executive Contract, with the idea that we could have the smart contract of Optimism Fractal that is actually in the power directly from the council. And the OREC is a bit of a different design. That's not using council. Also in some of the other fractals, like for example, the software that Vlad has developed on the Antelope software, the smart contract changes and rotates directly according to the top 6 respected people or top 6 respected participants. In that case, they have direct power over the smart contract. In this case, we thought a lot about how that could actually happen, where the community could have access to the smart contract as a whole, but there were several different reasons and considerations, like one of them major being technical. Like we don't have a way to do that right now, so we figure the Optimistics will at this point still like administer the smart contract basically, but we'll just do it with the intent to follow everything that the Optimism Fractal community says with this consensus process. And then if for whatever reason people like didn't agree or anything like that, then the software and all of the respect scores and everything like that's all open source too, and the community could always if for whatever reason Optimistics didn't want to do that, then the community could always choose somebody else to do that for the Optimism Fractal community as well. I hope that makes sense. Happy to go into more detail as well. I see people laughing, and I don't know what Hodlon is doing with the eating and the person who laughing. Feel free.
It was a fork.
Okay.
It was a fork. It was a fork emoji.
Okay.
You just mentioned
Oh yeah, forking. Yeah. Okay.
open source code and the people
Yes.
aren't happy. Then I was immediately pulled up the fork emoji or the
Right.
closest one to it.
Right. Makes sense. So, was that right?
I
Sorry?
didn't know about the fork emoji. It was too much.
Okay.
That's
Sorry, it
fine.
was distracting. It was distracting. Keep
That was
going.
amazing.
No problem. I enjoy it. That makes sense. And yeah, just before I pass on to Tadas, like, just to be clear, like from my personal perspective, I think from the Optimistics, and I think most people in the community, like the intention is to do what the consensus process, what the community says, voices with the consensus process. Um, and I don't think it's I think maybe it's inevitable that I think Optimism Fractal will be really successful, and maybe there'll be thousands of people, and maybe at some point people want to fork it, but generally I think that it's best to just go with the community consensus process, and it's not ideal to fork it. We should just do what we can together, but also I just want to make it clear that like people still have their own right to do their own things with their own like things that they do and stuff like that. So that's why I was trying to voice that opinion and so forth.
My understanding then is you and Tadas and everyone, we are trying to strike a balance between what's technically possible now and the ethos of the respect game and the community decides. And there's at some point what you described is something like a multi-sig eventually for the council somehow, but at the same time you don't want it to be binding, so you're trying to strike this weird balance between what tech you have at the moment in your hand, and it's my understanding.
Yeah, and another side of this is we have multiple design ideas for how community could control a smart contract. One is OREC, other is like what Vlad is building, and meanwhile we are hitting this post bootstraps phase. And so from my perspective, it was like why not let community decide how it wants to control a smart contract instead of committing to some project to create a smart contract that transfers control and working hard on it, and meanwhile community might have some other ideas. So this is meant to, like, this consensus process is meant to establish a means for a community to express a signal clearly about how it wants to work in the future. And from my perspective, I plan to propose a design which I think in which community does not necessarily need to control the smart contract. We simply make it easier for community to fork the smart contract in case or to transfer smart contract powers from one administrator to the other. So there are options like this, for example. And
Yep, sounds good. And yeah, hopefully it won't be perceived as weird. I think it is pretty simple, but I wasn't as prepared as I wanted to be presented, so I might have just not explained it so well. But basically, if you review the optimismfractal.com/details, it's explained well there. It's quite concise, and it should all make sense, I think. And overall, I'm very happy with this consensus process and the way we're moving forward. And I think that like it gives us the ability to upgrade it, like Tadas said. That's also another thing maybe I'd like to show. I think we have 10 minutes left or so. The ideas for the next mm, the next iterations of consensus process and so forth. Because yeah, a lot of our time over the past month has been spent brainstorming these different ways that the community can cooperate. And this is helpful for the Optimism Fractal and then anyone else who can use it. And I have some also exciting ideas for potential like ways to make these more accessible and understandable for people as different kinds of games that people can play too. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments about that, or any other thing you want to focus on during the next 10 minutes or so for this planning session? Curious. Abraham, looks like you're deep in thought. Oh, Hodlon got unmuted.
I have a
Yeah,
thought, but Abraham can go. Go ahead,
formulating
Abraham.
a question, but it's not there yet. Go ahead.
I was just going to say Dan, when you were talking about like how votes when we come to consensus on something as a community, it's an opinion, right? And like say for changing the website, just another way to kind of conceptualize that is like we're voting on chain, and if there's something that exists that is not on chain, it literally can't be coded into that. So if it's an opinion, then that helps in a fractal way. It's kind of like what we do with the game, except on a community-wide level, where the community can say, this is what I want to have happen, and then people can choose to do that. But like some on-chain DAOs and communities, there are things you can hard code, like moving funds from a treasury. That's something that can be hard coded into the vote. And like at the conclusion of the vote, the funds will move from that contract into something else. That's like a hard on-chain, action. But like you said, like a lot of the things that we'll be voting on are soft. They're not connected to an on-chain action, and people have to choose to kind of do that. So just another way to kind of think about that, I think. But
Yeah, that's totally right. And it's good to, I think, just foster that kind of culture of people understand that, because sometimes people can misinterpret things. Like I think we're all very much on the same page and very aligned, but I expect and imagine that the community will grow a lot. We're also working on making or helping like community members find funding opportunities with Retro PGF and other things like that too. And if funding gets involved, and if there's lots of people who don't know each other so well in the future and stuff like that, and if people think, oh, well, you had to do that because that's what I said or something like that, then sometimes people can get like hurt or confused and like that. So building up the culture right from the beginning, I think is important, so we can help people understand what can be changed directly by the community, and then the other things that like what we really have, one of our main powers is to voice opinions together and ask each other to do things and stuff like that, but not force each other to do things. Okay, cool. I see some thumbs up. Feel free if Abraham, you wanted to go and share more, if anybody else wanted to share more thoughts. I also wanted to mention too, we had created the Optimism Fractal Notion page a couple weeks ago, which we put together. Maybe I'll share my screen again to show you what I'm looking at here. And this Notion page, well, once again, anybody's welcome to participate here, right here. So far, the Optimistics team is here, as well as I invited Hodlon and Bitbeckers who asked to be added. So if anyone wants to be added here, then feel free to just let me know your email, and then I can add you so you can have full access to this. And in the future, we can decentralize it more. But this page has a bunch of projects, and the first project was determine Optimism Fractal's consensus process. And that's still kind of an ongoing project, so we have determined it now, but we can change it at any time with this council, as we said before. And there are some previous designs here. We haven't included all the designs, so I'll work to add all the designs and thoughts we have here so people can review them. And I think this consensus process we have is good for now and good for a while. But if we did want to change it, then we could. Feel free. I see that Nuno said 5% battery has been fun, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nuno. Really appreciate it. But yeah, this project, I'll add more here with different kinds of designs that we could choose if we want. And Tadas said he's going to be working on more. And then there's also all these other projects that we can get involved with in tasks. If anybody wants to take part in any of these or the future consensus process, or anybody has any ideas for Optimism Fractal in general, then this process now allows you can make a proposal to do so. And like I said, I think right after today's meeting, I'll go on Snapshot and I'll create a new space for optimismfractal.eth, and then I'll put up the poll basically. Right now, this is just test one. So I'll do that so everybody can register after today's event, or right after I put that on, and I'll share in the Discord to take part in the first Optimism Fractal Council, and anybody will be able to make a proposal there, and then you can vote on the proposals. And I'd ask that if you're interested in helping take the lead, then register to be a council member, and then make any proposals that you think would be a good idea for Optimism Fractal in the future. And then also please try to just help lead and coordinate Optimism Fractal to be as successful as possible. And I suppose one other thing that I can share too while I'm sharing my screen is I did work on some branding, and this is like really early stage, but I'm thinking about, and this is just like, it might totally change, but I'm thinking about making it so this planning session is not just a planning session, but there's a game that we play. And right now I'm thinking about names like copinions or consonants. Then I'm thinking about how we can kind of like brand different mini games with different kinds of consensus processes. And I'll share this too, but I came with like some different game modes. This is the council, but we had the idea for OREC and OPROLs that we could vote, like each person votes, and I have like a kind of a game mode for that. So I'm going to share more about this in the future. It's kind of early stage, but just a bunch of ideas for different consensus process and different games we could play together. And then one other thing that I'll maybe propose in the next week or two is this idea of what we call Cagendas, which is like basically a way to structure these planning sessions I had mentioned before, where we could potentially use a snapshot or a tool like Joker or something like that to vote on topics to discuss. So not a huge priority. We can just have it where we are discussing things kind of free form as we were this meeting. But as the community grows, I think it's a good idea to also structure these meetings, and we can use respect process and so forth to do so. But I'll add more to that in the document and follow up with that in the Discord as well. And then, yeah, if anybody has any other thoughts for today, then feel free to share. Otherwise, we can wrap it up whenever. And we'll put out the polls so people can join the first council or put out the rather snapshot space so everybody can join the first council, put out a poll for the first council, and then also people will be able to make proposals there as well.
Hey, that was my question. Can anybody make a proposal and then just the council votes on it, or is it just the council that is limited to making and voting on proposals?
I believe that's actually one thing we need to discuss. That I don't know if we said in the details page. My understanding is that it's not just a council member, but it could just be people who have earned respect, or it could just be
anybody with respect tokens can make a proposal, and then the council is who actually votes on them.
Yes, actually, everyone with a respect token will vote.
Can vote.
But when it comes to proposal status, to change it to formally to passed, you need to count council votes.
Interesting. So the council can essentially veto the community. Is that? It's like a community could vote on something and then it has to like pass the council essentially.
In some sense, yes. Although in this case, like the council, if 6 members are in the council, it's like more than half of the community. So it's the same.
Right. It would be an instance where like a long tail of the community voted for something, and then the council members who have the majority of the votes think something else, then they have like a chance to veto it.
Yes. Although if we created it more simply, where we simply weighted votes by respect and had some requirement for some threshold, I think the result would be very similar, because if you weight all votes by respect, you will get something similar as to the top ranked members vote.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I think this is an important detail. I think it's important for every community member to be able to express an opinion in a poll, so it's visible what community thinks as a whole, not just the council.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know if I think of it as vetoing, like a council vetoing the rest of the community. I think that basically, like, there's different ways that you can derive consensus. Like, lots of people share their opinion, and then how do you formulate that into the consensus that the community uses to actually make decisions and uses to form community opinions. And so everybody can vote in the polls, everybody can express their opinions, and you can see a measure of how the community feels as a whole based upon respect. But then the process that we'll use to make decisions and so forth will be from the top 6 councils, unless we just had to change that in the future, which can also be changed by the council as well.
I see. So that's the first round is kind of a signal from the community, and then the council is basically codifies that. Is a different way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd use the word codified, because it's all like kind of like you said before, like it's all kind of off chain and soft right now to some extent. But yeah, so like they're both signals, and then and the council, I think, is the signal that we're formally using as the process to make decisions and so forth for Optimism Fractal.
Right. That's what I mean by codify, is kind of like the final stamp of like of the community saying, okay, the council's like passed this after looking at, you know, like all of the votes that went into it and all the community members' opinions and the proposal and all of that.
Yep, that's right. Okay, cool. Well, we're at a minute over time now, so I suppose we can wrap it up. If anybody has any last quick thoughts, then feel free to share. Otherwise, like I said, that poll will be coming out soon, so everybody can register for the council, and then you can make a proposal. I'll try to make that in the next couple of hours. Thanks so much for the great discussion and everything that's got us to this stage so far. It's really exciting to go into this like new kind of more so community-led and well community-led really stage of Optimism Fractal, and so really appreciate Abraham and Hodlon you joining and taking leadership roles, and really appreciate Rosemary and Tadas. Thanks so much everybody for watching. Thanks for the hearts. Any last comments or any last thoughts, or should we wrap it up now? I think we've wrapped it up, right?
Yeah, it's a wrap.
Okay, cool.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap. There we go. Tadas was sharing cool stuff about wraps with me before too. But anyway, we could say that another time. Okay, should we do 3, 2, 1, go Optimism Fractal maybe? Or 3,
Okay.
2, 1, 0. Go
Go
Optimism
Optimism.
Fractal.
Fractal.
All right, cool.
Woo.
Thanks everybody. See you
Bye.
next week, same time.